In April 2016, the world woke up to a digital earthquake. More than 11 million confidential documents had been leaked from a small law firm in Panama. Inside those files were the hidden financial secrets of the world's most powerful people. Presidents, prime ministers, billionaires, and celebrities, names that once seemed untouchable, all exposed in what became known as the Panama Papers. It was the largest leak in history. 11.5 million files, 2.6 terabytes of data, a scale so massive it made previous whistleblowing scandals look like footnotes. At the center stood Mossack Fonseca, a quiet Panamanian law firm that specialized in creating shell companies, legal fronts used to hide ownership and move money offshore. What began as a local paperwork business had suddenly become the eye of a global storm. Across continents, journalists began to dig. They found links between world leaders and offshore empires worth billions. Vladimir Putin's inner circle, the family of the British Prime Minister, football legend Lionel Messi. How could a single firm in a small Central American nation rattle the foundations of global finance? This is the story of the Panama Papers. To understand the shock of the Panama Papers, we first need to understand the system it exposed. It is a world built on secrecy, a financial shadow realm where money moves faster than law, and the rich play by different rules. At the center of this world are offshore companies. On paper, they look like normal businesses. In reality, most of them don't sell anything, make anything, or even have employees. They exist only as names in a registry, shell companies, designed to hide who really owns what. Here's how it works. A wealthy client contacts a firm like Mossack Fonseca. The firm then creates a company in a tax haven, maybe the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, or, of course, Panama. That company is then used to open a bank account somewhere else, often Switzerland, Luxembourg, or Singapore. The client's name never appears. Instead, ownership is hidden behind layers of paperwork, nominees, and legal proxies. On the surface, everything looks legitimate, but beneath it lies a complex web that can move millions of dollars across borders in seconds, completely out of sight. And the beauty, or the danger, of it all is that it's often perfectly legal. That's what makes it so powerful. You don't have to break the law if the law was written to let you hide. These offshore havens promise two things: low taxes and total secrecy. They don't ask where the money came from, only where to send it next. For decades, politicians, billionaires, and corporations have used this system to protect their wealth from scrutiny, from regulators, and sometimes from justice itself. Mossack Fonseca was not unique. Hundreds of similar firms operate quietly around the world, building invisible empires for their clients. But Mossack Fonseca had something others didn't. It got caught. Its documents revealed thousands of offshore entities linked to over 140 politicians and public officials. The data included emails, contracts, bank transfers, and passport scans. A paper trail showing how fortunes were hidden, taxes were dodged, and influence was bought. For the average citizen, the revelation was infuriating. While ordinary people paid their share, the elite had found a door out of the system entirely. It wasn't theft in the traditional sense. It was something subtler, a game of financial hide-and-seek played on a global scale. As one journalist described it, it's like looking through the keyhole of the world's biggest safe. A single mouse click could move millions across oceans, beyond the reach of any tax authority. It was the modern-day version of disappearing ink, money that exists everywhere and nowhere at once. For years, this secret network had been protected by silence, lawyers, and distance. But in 2016, that wall cracked. Someone, somewhere inside the system, decided the world deserved to know what was hidden behind the curtain. That person would soon be known only as John Doe, the whistleblower who changed everything. No one saw it coming. Not the lawyers at Mossack Fonseca, not the billionaires who trusted their money to vanish quietly offshore, and not the governments whose leaders were suddenly about to be exposed. It began with a message sent to a German newspaper, Süddeutsche Zeitung. The sender called themselves only two words: John Doe. No real name, no location, no payment, just a promise. I want to make these crimes public. What John Doe handed over was beyond imagination. A data leak so enormous, it dwarfed anything that had come before. 11.5 million files, 2.6 terabytes of information, emails, contracts, scanned passports, and secret ledgers covering nearly 40 years of hidden deals. The journalists at Süddeutsche Zeitung realized this was too big for one newsroom, so they called for help. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, joined the mission. Soon, more than 370 journalists from over 80 countries were working together in total secrecy. They built encrypted databases, shared findings over secure servers, and used code names to protect the project. It was investigative journalism on a scale never seen before. For an entire year, they followed the threads, tracing shell companies back to presidents, prime ministers, movie stars, athletes, and criminal networks. Every name uncovered another hidden empire. Every document revealed another loophole in the global financial system. Then, on April 3, 2016, the embargo lifted. The first stories dropped across hundreds of news outlets at once. The Guardian, BBC, Le Monde, El País, The Washington Post. The headlines exploded like shockwaves. Within hours, millions of people were typing the same search term, Panama Papers. And buried inside those stories were names no one ever expected to see. The close friends of Vladimir Putin, the father of British Prime Minister David Cameron, FIFA officials, film directors, business tycoons, even global icons like Lionel Messi. In a single weekend, the veil of secrecy ripped open, and the world's elite could no longer hide behind it. But this was only the beginning, because what happened next would shake governments, topple leaders, and rewrite the rules of financial power forever. When the Panama Papers went public, the reaction was immediate and explosive. It wasn't just another scandal. It was a revelation that reached from the smallest island nations to the highest offices of power. For a brief moment, the entire world looked up and realized just how unequal the system had become. The first political earthquake hit Iceland. Within 48 hours of the release, protesters flooded the streets of Reykjavik, waving signs and banging pots in fury. They had just learned that their own prime minister, Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson, had secretly owned an offshore company connected to Iceland's failed banks. He denied wrongdoing, but the outrage was too strong. He resigned 2 days later, the first world leader to fall because of the Panama Papers. Next came Pakistan. The documents showed that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's family controlled offshore companies used to purchase luxury properties in London. After months of protests and investigations, the country's Supreme Court ruled against him. Sharif was disqualified from office, a historic verdict that sent shockwaves through South Asia. In the United Kingdom, the revelations struck close to home. Then Prime Minister David Cameron was forced to admit that his late father had managed an offshore fund that paid no British tax. The scandal triggered massive backlash and deepened public distrust toward the political elite. Across Russia, the papers pointed to billions of dollars linked to President Vladimir Putin's inner circle, close friends and allies moving money through hidden companies. The Kremlin dismissed the findings as a Western smear campaign. In China, state media quickly censored any mention of the leaks after relatives of top Communist Party officials appeared in the files. Entire news websites were blocked overnight. But politics was only one part of the story. The Panama Papers revealed how global banks, from HSBC to UBS, had quietly helped clients set up these offshore networks. Corporations used them to avoid taxes. Criminals used them to launder money. Sports agents, movie producers, real estate moguls, all taking advantage of the same legal gray zone. Social media erupted with anger. The hashtag Panama Papers trended worldwide for days. Everywhere, the same questions echoed. How could this be legal? Why do the rules apply differently to them than to us? Ordinary people began to see the bigger picture. While workers had taxes deducted from every paycheck, billionaires could move fortunes across borders with a few clicks. It wasn't just about corruption, it was about trust. If the rich and powerful could hide their wealth, what did that mean for democracy itself? Governments scrambled to respond. Some launched investigations, others promised reforms, but few were willing to confront the offshore system head-on because too many of their own benefited from it. The real power of the Panama Papers wasn't just in the names it exposed, it was in the pattern it revealed. A global architecture built to protect wealth and conceal accountability. A world where secrecy isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system. As one protester in Iceland shouted through a megaphone, We played by the rules, and they wrote them to win. The message resonated everywhere. From London to Karachi, from Moscow to Mexico City, people were no longer just angry. They were awake. The scandal had started with a single leak from a tiny law firm in Panama. Now it was shaking parliaments, collapsing governments, and forcing the world to question who truly holds the power. And behind the outrage, one truth became impossible to ignore. The Panama Papers weren't just about hidden money. They were about a hidden world. And for the first time, its doors had been forced open. In the months that followed, the shock began to settle, and the world started asking the harder questions. Who allowed this system to exist? And why, even after so much outrage, did so little actually change? The law firm at the center of it all, Mossack Fonseca, tried to defend itself. Its founders insisted they had broken no laws, that they simply helped clients operate within the legal framework. But under the weight of investigation, lawsuits, and public fury, the firm collapsed. By 2018, Mossack Fonseca had officially shut down, its once quiet offices abandoned, its name forever synonymous with scandal. But the truth was bigger than one company. The Panama Papers were only a window, a small opening into a much larger world of offshore finance that still thrives today. Because what the leak revealed wasn't a crime spree, it was a system. One that had been designed piece by piece to make the invisible legal. There's a fine line between tax evasion and tax avoidance. One illegal, the other perfectly lawful. The difference often comes down to paperwork and influence. If you have enough lawyers, enough accountants, and enough political connections, the rules begin to bend. That's why the scandal stung so deeply. It wasn't about breaking the law, it was about owning it, turning the law itself into a shield for the wealthy. Governments promised reform, but offshore finance didn't disappear. It simply moved to the British Virgin Islands, to Cayman, to Singapore. And soon after, the Panama Papers came the Paradise Papers, then the Pandora Papers. Each new leak exposing the same old game, played by different names. Still, something important had changed. For the first time, the public could see the blueprint of global inequality laid bare. The reporters who risked their safety to publish these documents had reminded the world that truth still has power, even against money, secrecy, and fear. One journalist said it best. The Panama Papers didn't destroy the system, but they made it impossible to pretend it doesn't exist. If Lehman Brothers showed what happens when greed collapses, the Panama Papers showed what happens when greed hides. And as the dust began to settle, one question lingered quietly beneath it all. How many more secrets are still waiting to be found? Years have passed since that April in 2016, but the echoes of the Panama Papers still linger. The files may have faded from the headlines, yet their shadow stretches across every conversation about money, power, and trust. Mossack Fonseca is gone, its sign torn down, its servers wiped clean. But the world it revealed, the offshore maze of secrecy and privilege, remains very much alive. New firms have taken its place. New havens have risen. The game continues, only quieter, smarter, and deeper underground. Still, something irreversible happened. The illusion of innocence, that the global financial system was fair, or even transparent, has been shattered. Ordinary people now know how the powerful protect themselves. And once you've seen behind the curtain, you can never unsee it. The Panama Papers taught the world that information is the new weapon of accountability, that a single leak in the hands of truth seekers can challenge an empire, and that in an age of endless data, no secret is ever truly safe. Perhaps that's the ultimate irony. The same technology that made it easy to hide money, made it even easier to expose it. So, as the waves crash against the shores of Panama, one question still hangs in the air. When money can move anywhere, can justice follow it? Because the firm is gone, the logo is gone, but the lesson, the warning, remains. This was the Panama Papers scandal in 10 minutes.